All right, Zach Parker, thank you for meeting with me. Appreciate your time. Can you kick this off and tell us a bit about yourself and why you joined the military?
I can. Before the military, I was kind of just working in refineries day to day and got bored. Figured there was something better out there. High school, like everybody thinks they're going to go travel the world and do all this cool stuff, and then really reality hits you, slaps you right in the face, and says you got to get a job. So worked refineries 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. Never had time to myself. Decided I was going to join the military, and when I went, I just wanted to go, and I asked, which job for the military was leaving the soonest, and they gave me truck driver and infantry and medic, and my whole family drives trucks, and I didn't want to be a gun bunny, so I was like, I'll be a medic. That sounds like a lot of fun, and my recruiter really sold me on it when he was like, well, it's like 4-1 dudes to chicks. I was like, you got me. I'm in. No, no problem. And he's like, it's in San Antonio, blah, blah, blah. You'll go to Fort Jackson. I'm like, oh, I've heard Jackson called relax in Jackson. That is not true. It's hot there. It sucks. And I decided I'm going to go in the middle of summer. So that was even worse. But uh, got to San Antonio and did medic school and had a ton of fun because, I mean, on the weekends, you got the river walk and all of downtown San Antonio to hang out in. So it was a good time. And then after AIT, like I was actually sent to the 62nd Med Brigade, and I guess 14 had a hiccup with their medic situation, and I got pulled in because I was the newest medical personnel to the post. So I got switched like instantly. But I uh I was with headquarters company originally, and that was like the graviest job in the world. Is you just like a 9 to 5. You go to work in the morning, 2, 3 o'clock, you're off work. Like, that's it. Go home. Uh, and then deployment came up, and they're like, "Well, we need another line medic," and I was like, the newest person again, so I got sent over to 22nd and made a lot of friends really fast. And I had no idea that just the same company or the same unit was so vastly different among the different companies,
Hmm.
and camaraderie and everything is just so much more in an I don't want to say an actual unit, but like a line unit, I guess, build unit. But uh, I had no idea what I was getting into at all. Um, it was just a black and white. There's no comparison between the two. Uh, and then they told us, we're leaving in like however many months it was. It was like 3 months warning or something like that. And I got shipped off to like 2 or 3 different uh, medical labs to do, say, labs, not like testing labs, but like go to learn stuff labs, like live tissue practice and stuff like that. And it really gives you the sense of how not dramatic but real things are going to be when you do these exercises in preparation for like deployment.
Mhm.
Like just at the age of 19, it's shocking that you go through these things, and it's something that nothing in your life has ever prepared you for at all. And just to kind of be dropped in it is awakening that this stuff is real. And then like, to be really to be forged in this stuff before even anything in your deployment could happen like this. It's helpful. It's very helpful if you need it, but it is mind-boggling the intensity and just madness that goes the pre-deployment training for medical personnel. Um, Luckily, though, I went through this because early on in our deployment, one of our members got hurt, and I had every ounce of knowledge I needed to assist, and like without even thinking. And to this day, me and that dude are great friends. Me and Rear are like amazing buddies. Try to stay in contact as much as you can, but people lead different lives in different parts of the country, so you know, time and space gets in between sometimes. Uh, Luckily, that was, other than my injury, the worst part about our entire deployment for our particular platoon. There were uh, some bad days during our deployment that I really wish I had been there to help with. Unfortunately, you can't be there for everything all the time, and some things you just can't change the outcome of. So it is what it is. There's no change in the past. Um, but for every bad day out there, we had 10, 50, 100 good days. So uh, like I learned so much off of our deployment about things that I definitely couldn't have learned anywhere else in my life, regardless if I'd have been injured or stayed in and like had a 20-year experience in the military. I got to ride in the truck with our platoon sergeant who had vast amount of knowledge in the military itself and in life because of just everything he's been through as a person, and gladly passed all that along. Uh, and it definitely formed a lifelong friendship with him as well. And I know even 15 years from now, I could probably reach out to him and talk his ear off if I needed to. I mean, I know I know a lot of people go through a lot of things during deployment and take a lot of that home and have a hard time dealing with it. But I do know that I have a plethora of people that I could reach out to that were there every day that I was, and literally saw the exact same things I saw and went through. And if one of us isn't strong enough to handle it at that time, I know I can reach out to someone if I can't handle it and talk to them to ease the load off of me. And I know they're willing to do it, even if the load is on them as well. And it's a good feeling to have, to know that you got those type of friends out there and understand exactly what you are going through. And I know, like, since I got hurt, I've had a lot of civilian friends that have kind of disappeared. only had one or two that have really stuck around and helped a lot. Uh, but I know I can count on every one of my I count on every one of my brothers from deployment to be there if I need them, like 100%. Uh, but after I got injured and was going through recovery and stuff, uh, had multiple uh, people from my platoon and company, even I'm pretty sure from around the brigade, come and visit and check up, see how I was doing, which really helped a lot, and like kept me from falling into a really dark place. But even though can't everybody be there all the time, so once the real recovery started and like I guess freedom was given back to being able to go and do uh, really whatever I wanted to. Uh, kind of started slipping in some bad habits, and for some reason decided it was a good idea to start drinking again and smoking again. And Army really likes to give you any medication you need to console yourself. And for a while, I was chewing chewing on fentanyl patches and abusing medication heavily. And luckily, my girlfriend at the time was like, "It's either it or it's me." And I yeah, I definitely didn't want her to go, so we worked through that. We're now married though, so that's cool. I have 2 kids, so and they're awesome. Um, but nobody like you have mental health people that work with you, but those mental health people like they're there to listen, but most of them don't know how to help. Like, if you need to get something off your chest, they're there for it. Hardly any of them know how to help you work through it, and it takes a toll to constantly be running a plow on your own thoughts, and you get down on yourself or get down on the world, and you slip, fall back into the same stuff. And I knew that I could reach out to someone and get help with that situation. And luckily, I had everyone I deployed with that would be willing to work with me on that. And I had a couple of really good friends, or still have a couple of really good friends that literally came. One of them quit his job, came and lived with me to help me get past it, get out of that really dark place. Uh, and that will be a friendship for life because we've been through everything but deployment together. So, uh, but after I got past the whole drug abuse and alcoholism, like rampant alcoholism. I was going through like a handle of rum a night, a gallon of rum a night, and it was just. I'm sure my insides thank me for like chilling out. Uh, Once I got past that, I really started to progress a lot better with every other aspect of my recovery, like my physical therapy and occupational therapy. Because no one, I've never thought in my life to like say take my left hand to my side and just not move it to see how difficult it would be to do stuff one handed. And I've never thought about all the things in my life that are really difficult to do one handed. Like, but it was definitely an awakening. Like when you go to even just something as simple as opening a Coke, like you don't think about it, but chances are you're like holding it with your left hand and you open it with your right.
Mhm.
And it's just you can't do that anymore, you know? But I mean that's something that's besides the point. Definitely took a lot of work, a lot of learning, a lot of ingenuity, you know, imagination to get past the woe is me mentality. You know, to not be a victim, I guess would be a good way to put it. Um, and to like really start to try to succeed again. Uh, but I've had help, like really good help the entire way through, and I've had they should call them mentors, people that lost a hand or had lost multiple limbs, or you know, people that had forged the path before me, so to speak, and helped me walk the path behind them. Uh, so I was lucky in that aspect, you know, to have assistance or someone to throw ideas at me of like, have you tried this? And it, you know, it really helped. Plus, one of the other guys that got injured at the same time as me lost his dominant hand, so we both are going through relearning everything together, and it was as weird as it sounds, it was a good time, you know, learning experience of sorts. Made me a better person, that's for sure. Um, but then you know came all the the real struggles of doing everything outside of the military. Once you know, once you no longer living, you know, in housing and like going to the DFAC or like whatever it may be, you know, where things are somewhat normal, back into the you know real world where it's a borderline nightmare. uh, it was a huge adjustment because especially being in a chair, the world's not made for wheels, made for legs. And I'm not the person to complain about that. Like if I can't go somewhere, I'm not going to stand outside of their office and like picket their lawn, you know. But it does throw in that kind of sucks factor because now everybody can go, but I can't, sort of thing. And you know, just the things you used to do before the army, you want to go and do those things again, like go fishing, go hunting, go skiing, go snowboarding, water ski, whatever, but now you have to have, adaptive equipment, or like you have to go with like a special group, or, you gotta build your own hunting blind so that you can get the chair in it, or, whatever it may be. Just everything now is completely different, like unimaginably different. And I have mad respect for anybody that has grown up in a chair and is still kicking it like nothing phases them. Like it blows my mind. And I try, as often as I can, to like help people that are fresh to a set of wheels to get past, the woe is me victim mentality sort of thing. But some people just don't want to hear it, and they want to just wallow in their own pity sort of thing. And I respect that too, because I understand. I know it feels bad. It feels very bad to wake up in the morning and see that it's not some kind of fucked up nightmare, and it is actually reality. And I know it feels good to wallow in that self pity, to have everything handed and done for you, and but it's no way to live, sort of thing. Um, like luckily I had a really good girlfriend slash fiance slash wife by the time I got out of the military to really help me continue to progress and do more. And she'd like push me to go, do stuff on my own, or go on like hunting trips or fishing trips or whatever it may be, to like keep up the independence, I guess, and really drove me to be a better me and not just a cripple me, I guess. Not just sit at home and literally be a lump on a log, you know. Uh, and thankfully, she stuck around, and now we've got two really cool sons that are awesome. So um, it's it's definitely been a fun ride, to say the least. Um, and she still to this day pushes me to be uh, better and do more and go out and, you know have a life, I guess would be the best way to put it, and socialize and everything.
So one of the theories I've had, and I'd really love your thoughts on this, is earlier in the interview you talked about, you've got this brotherhood of people, you went through this deployment with them. And I know it's hard to relate to, but a lot of the people you have ties to are because you went through this experience. What would it have meant to you to be able to process your deployment with a group of people who went through that same experience? So you talked about therapists, and you go one on one, and you can they're great at listening, was how you described it. What are your thoughts on having a group of people that had the same shared experience as you, who deployed together, and before, say, a good time might be before you discharge out of the military, having opportunities to process that as a group? What would that have? Can you speculate on what that would have meant?
So we kind of had something like that, but there was no oversight on it.
Mm.
It was just like we met and like hung out, but then it all just devolved into debauchery, like just drinking and card games and
I see.
snorting morphine pills off of the sink in the bathroom, and like it just, if it were professionally like mediated
Mhm.
by, someone that could quietly sit in the corner and chime in and like kind of lead the conversation or steer the conversation in the right direction, and not just let us talk about war stories and eventually slap, glasses together full of rum and like just go crazy. But if we could have like a, professional mediator and like have it be of, like a productive thing and not just a completely destructive thing, it would be great. I feel like it would be very useful to have something like that and not just let us socialize and talk and then end up being drunk, passed out of our chairs on the lawn, kind of thing.
And can I ask, one of the things you said, which seems like a really important mental health transition, is how, and it's going to be a different experience for everybody, but how did you
Oh yeah.
transition from I'm a victim to going to the next step of, I mean, what is the next step of that? What would you label that? Is that living independently? I mean, like, what is that and how did you get there?
Tough love. I I pretty much had the statement of get the fuck out of my room. I don't need any of you. And the buddy of mine that was staying with me took my chair
Okay.
and said, "Okay, then do your thing." And literally all he did was like push the chair across the room to where I couldn't reach it, and it, just like little things like that. He give me subtle reminders, like kind of being an asshole, like reel it in a little bit, like show a little appreciation for the small things,
Mhm.
and and then I had like the family side of it that was like trying to hover, I guess, like helicopter over and make sure everything was okay, which was very stressful in itself because you've got a team of surgeons, nurses, doctors, therapists, and everything else that's constantly over you anyway. So then you kind of just end up losing your cool. But what really worked for me was tough love and to be shown harshly what reality actually is, that you're gonna need somebody or something, like at least in the early stages, before you have everything set up for yourself. Like don't be a dickhead to everybody kind of thing.
Mhm.
uh yeah, that's like I remember I fell out of my chair one time, like just messing around, and my buddy looked at me, he's like, don't look at me, get back in it, you do it all yourself. It's like it's not cool, man. So I literally had to like hop all the way over to go get my chair, like figure out a way to shimmy back up into my chair, which, eventually I did it. And then I also learned how to get back into my chair if I uh, fell out. So that was a plus. So,
I want to take us back to Afghanistan real quick. And you being the medic, you had obviously a really unique role. There's only one per platoon, or maybe even less than that. I don't even know if we had a medic assigned. So often you probably had to jump around with people.
oh,
And
yeah.
I mean, what was that like? And then could you tell us about the one of the early casualty events with Rear?
So, like, early on in deployment, before air air status, like condition got real bad. We kind of had, one per platoon for a while, and then I don't remember if somebody went home or like their contract ended or whatever it may be, but we all kind of had to start jumping around to multiple platoons. When there's, four platoons and three people, like people start working double shifts
Yeah.
and doing multiple missions a day. And when mission itself is 12 to 18 hours long, sleep is non-existent, or the only time you get sleep is if you're in the back of a vehicle and hopefully it's a quiet day and nothing happens, to where you can catch an hour or an hour and a half of sleep down a quiet route, that hopefully never has anything happen.
Right.
But even then, trying to, you're in a war zone, like something could happen at any given time. And with that in your brain, like it's not exactly easy to go to sleep, even if you are in the safety of the fob, like closing your eyes and not having control of the things around you anymore is frightening,
Right.
honestly. Especially at the age of 19, you're taken from home and thrown in a third world country where people hate you, like literally want to have you dead. Like that's their whole goal. And you have to sleep because you're human, like so it's it was difficult. Even your normal days were sleepless, and then you throw in double shifts or you know a report before mission that somebody's out there waiting for us, and like we know they're there, we don't know where they are, but we know they're there, or we know there's a bomb on this route, be careful. Well, like I said, we're human, we can't do everything perfect, and even if we know the exact location, it could still be a bad day.
Mhm.
So there's plenty of times that it just doesn't pick up the location or doesn't read it, whatever it may be, and it gets all clear and ends up blowing up anyway. So luckily, we never took any terrible injuries on those days. Like that sort of like, I mean, I'm sure people got their back messed up or shoulder messed up or something like that, but everybody walked away from those days. Unfortunately, there were days that like people didn't, and those are the really bad days. Uh, like oh, I think we're maybe 2 weeks, a week in to being at our actual location, and it was our first or second mission of being alone without the previous unit being there. And I don't exactly remember what happened. I mean, I was in the last truck and like hearing everything over the radio. And when things get crazy, a lot of communication happens really fast. So, uh, but our Buffalo got hit, and I don't know if it took an IED or what happened first, but then it took an RPG round and like a recoilless round hit the side of the vehicle and went like straight through, like it cut through butter. And it like that's to me, that's mind blowing because you're talking inches of steel plate underneath a steel guarded like cage system that is supposed to like deter these type things from happening, like world's best technology sort of thing, and like something just sliced right through it like nothing ever was there, like a piece of paper. And like when I heard that the Buffalo was hit, people were actually like injured inside, Sergeant Paleo was like it's time to go. And like, that's the last thing I heard. Like that, my brain just shut off after that. And he said it was time to go. And I just tossed the back door open and like was up the ladder of the buffalo before like his feet even like touched the ground. And he commended me afterwards for having done a good job, but was like, hey, how about you, like wait for a little security before you just start running off into gunfire, like I was like, yeah, looking back, that'd probably been a good idea to have somebody with a gun to shoot back while I like ran, but got in there and assessed everybody, and the worst off was rear. And I mean, luckily he wasn't, like shredded in half or anything, but he had like a huge compound fractured arm, just really messed up. Like I think it was like broken like three places, and his index finger. I think his index finger was like ripped off, which isn't isn't a huge deal. Like looking back, it's people lose fingers all the time. It just in the civilian world, but in like the heat of the moment, and like you know, he's a young guy too when it happened, and like this is all very shocking and can be really traumatizing. And I know for him it hit him hard,
Mhm.
from what I understand, and it was a it was a crazy day, and like my brain just was off the whole day after that because I that was like my buddy. Like I hung out with him mainly all pre-deployment. Like I literally lived in his house with him, and we would go back and forth to work together, and like I played with his son and talked to his wife, had dinner with him and everything like that. Like to see to see him get loaded up and flown off while like
Right.
my uniform's covered in him, I'm like, fuck man, am I ever gonna see my friend again? Like it's very, very difficult to deal with. And now everything's fine, but like you don't know when they take him away, nobody's calling you on the phone, hey, he's out of surgery, he's fine, we, fixed his arm up and everything, blah, blah, blah. You just have this constant thought in your head that you're never gonna see him again. Even though it wasn't like I don't want to downplay his injury, but like looking back, it wasn't like the world's worst injury. Like just the only thing you see in your brain is blood. You know, and I mean, I literally like my brain was so cut off from it that I literally went from dropping him at the roll two surgical place to the chow hall, and
Right.
like got thrown out of the chow hall because I was covered in blood. And they're like, "What are you doing? You can't. No, you go change. Go bring all that stuff and get it incinerated." Like, I can't do that. This is literally all I have left of my buddy. As weird, as weird as the thought as that is, like I wanted to hold on to the, dusty, dried blood that was all over me because I may not have anything ever again from him. I don't know. Maybe that's strange to some, but like that's the only thing my brain can like rationalize at the time. I had to like hold on to rusty colored clothes. But and thankfully, the other three individuals that were in in the Buffalo weren't dramatically injured like that. I know that it was a pretty big mental impact on a few of them, or on all four of them, I'm sure, because you just had a literal rocket you know, go through your truck. Like that's supposed to be borderline impenetrable, like
Mm.
how do you, at the time it didn't really like even think to hit my brain like, how do you continue on with this thing you're supposed to be like safe in is now like you're
Right.
driving a Ford Taurus down the road, like, I don't know. Thankfully, I never got hit. So, well, my my truck never got hit. That is, I mean, I myself stepped left instead of right and set a whole day's worth of stuff off. But uh, you know, luckily that day there was only one major casualty, and it wasn't too much of a load on myself to care for four people instead of just one.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was and it being so early on, man, like was just like I said earlier, like the live tissue lab, like it does it teaches you all this stuff, like to have you know, like spurting blood and like
Yeah.
chaos, just absolute chaos going on while you're having to clear headedly think how to literally keep someone from dying. And for it to be such a close relationship,
Right.
personal, like I literally held and like threw this dude's kid up in the air and like just like had dinner at his house with his wife and child and him and like, you know, met and literally like lived with his family. And now if I fuck up, he he'll be going home in a box.
Yeah.
And and then how do I go home after that? Like
Right.
because I'm, whether it be how I am right now or had I gone back at the end of the deployment just like everybody else, how do I face his wife had I not done my job correctly or had I, missed something or, because one speck of fraction of shrapnel just in the wrong place and he's
Right.
internally bleeding and I don't see that and he doesn't go home or well he goes home in a box covered in a flag, like and then I've got to go home and like face his wife and tell his son that I fucked up and couldn't do my job right, or whatever it may be. Luckily, it didn't come to that, but like, yeah, it's a lot. It's I thank God daily that he was fine, or well, that he made it home alive. You know, we all have our mental scars from the deployment because it was nasty and it was no part of it was fun. I mean, we had good times, but we had good times because we had good bonds with each other, not because it was the least bit enjoyable. But
Yeah.
yeah,
If I can, real quick, a comment, like you really illustrated um something that's really unique to your position because it's almost like camaraderie could be this double-edged sword because on one hand like you're fighting with these guys and then you feel this immense responsibility if something goes wrong, which is out of your control. Like you wouldn't have been able to
yeah,
help if you had a piece of shrapnel in an artery and there might not have been any way for anybody to notice something like that in the chaos. But and I'm very happy for you. You don't have to carry that kind of guilt, but I imagine a lot of medics do. They come back
yeah.
and they had these strong bonds to these individuals, and something did go sideways, not their fault at all, and they just carry that guilt.
Well, I know like I don't know much about the incident with fourth platoon. fifth platoon.
Yeah, with
Lonnie
Povolitis.
with yeah, with Laniello. And I don't I don't know what happened or what the injuries or anything like that were, but like that's another thing that just sits in your brain. Like, what if there had been another medic there with him that could have worked alongside him? Like, could we together have helped? Or,
Mm,
like, it's just it's a hard thing to like
sure.
have it's a mass amount of responsibility that nobody, like, you don't even think about it. Like when you're going through school and stuff, like, hey, you're going to be in charge of like 30 dudes' health. Like, okay, I'll make sure they wipe their ass and clip their toenails, whatever. But then you don't even think about it. Like, no, if one of them gets, actually shot in the sternum, like, you're going to have to fix that, or you're going to have to like, you know, let their family know that you couldn't. Like, that's not even remotely in your brain when you decide to take on a job like this.
Sure.
And it's like, looking back, I'm really happy that nothing like that happened, and those situations didn't come up, and I didn't have to go through that. But I know, like I said, like Laniello, like that's something that he had to go through, and I don't know if he has reached out to anybody about it or not, but that's uh that's something heavy. I know that.
I want to ask, uh, well, I want to give you the opportunity if there's anything we didn't cover to talk about that, but I'm also curious, like, what do you think you're most proud of with just your whole military service in general?
Most proud of, and like with mine, honestly, was just being there to be a part of the family I made, like with my platoon, with the other platoons, like even with Sergeant Simcoe, like I went up to Wyoming not, a year ago, 2 years ago to go hunt elk with him. And I don't know how many people can like get out of the military and then 12 years later just go hunting with somebody that they weren't really even underneath, or above or alongside of. And it's just, I know that deployment really forged a lot of solid bonds that are unbreakable. But I would do everything in my power to help anyone from that deployment. Like I just, yeah, it's really that's really what I'm proudest about is that we made it. You know, we made it home. Some of us took some beatings, some of us watched some beatings be taken, and like, but are all there together now, and just proud to call them all family. Honestly,
Okay, and then I just want to give you the opportunity. Was there any final thoughts? I feel like we covered quite a bit of ground. Was there anything left unsaid you'd like to share?
well, I know I hadn't really talked about like I guess my own personal injuries much, but I do know that like uh I don't remember a lot from the day itself. Uh, I remember a lot from the place we were at because we were there for like 3 days or four. They might have been there 4 days. On the third day, I got injured, but we were all putting our bags, in one place, and we thought it was clear. Like we'd walked all around right there, stepped all of them, put bags there, parked a what is that remote control bulldozer thing called? A
Hadoken?
Doki? Yeah,
Yeah.
we parked that thing there. Like nothing ever happened, and like I know that thing will set stuff off because it set another one off and sent those armored wheel things flying like way up in the air, like they're confetti, you know. But I don't know if it was shifted or I don't know a whole lot about the engineer side and like bomb making and all that because that wasn't my field of expertise. So, but I went to go with another guy to move the bags to another location and stepped in the wrong spot, I guess, and set something off. Luckily, literally right before that mission, I'd held a advanced or a little more in-depth CLS class where like, the needles and pliers all came out of the bag and like, the nitty gritty stuff that, people aren't supposed to play with came out kind of thing. Uh, and thankfully 82nd had a platoon or something very close by with medical personnel in it. And Gustav was very responsive in their timing. So that was a plus. Uh, but I don't really know how much I stepped on or what I stepped on for that matter. But ended up losing, I think originally I lost up to the end of my femur on my right side, but my bone itself actually ended up dying in my femur. So it's just hip socket. Uh, and I had, I think close to my ankle on my left side, but I post injury, like after, I don't know, 7-ish months in the hospital, I caught a really bad infection in my knee and ended up losing my knee and then caught another infection in my thigh and ended up losing a bunch of muscle mass in my thigh. But I still have a functional, uh, I don't know, I guess technically the right word is residual limb. So my left leg is still a functional nub. On my arm, I had, I believe, just below my elbow originally, like on point of injury. And then I caught a massive infection like in my armpit and I had to have it uh, removed because I guess I was reaching down with my left hand, like my left hand to pick the bag up and some debris went in my armpit and caused a huge infection. But, and I lost, they got every limb, man, every limb. Couldn't even leave me one, man. Come on. Oh, and I lodged my teeth in my bottom jaw when I first got injured from the blast. Like all of these are like halfway down, they're fake. So I have this weird line that goes across my teeth. It's great.
That on top and bottom? The
No,
bottom's all
just top.
okay.
Yeah, these are all good. It's just
It's
snapped
weird.
all these, snapped all these off in my bottom jaw. And then I like coughed up and sneezed out rocks for like a month after I woke up. Yeah, I've got them all in like a little specimen jar. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Which is dirt from Afghanistan, rock, whatever it is. Who knows? But it was quite a journey
Okay.
post injury to well, I mean, like even sitting, I don't know if you can see my shoulders right now, but like my left shoulder is significantly higher because it doesn't have the weight of an arm pulling it
Oh,
down.
interesting. Never would have thought of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything in your body is like run on elastic little bands that hold everything together, all your, tendons and ligaments and stuff like that. So you take the pressure away from one side, it just sends it over, pulls it all the way back. But retraining yourself to sit properly, even, once, because you sit on like a bone in your pelvis, but it's supported by a bone in your femur. So you take that balance, it's just a whole weird thing. But uh it was definitely a journey to get past those injuries.
I imagine I'm no doctor, but that could cause a lot of aches and pains, just kind of
Yes.
why. Um, I mean, can we talk about things like the alcohol use and stuff? Was that to self-medicate pain? Was that for mental health? What was?
So the whole abuse aspect, whether it be alcohol or narcotics, it was more mental than physical. I mean, we were already like I was on like 4 different types of opiates. So I didn't feel anything. Like I could probably like literally ran my head into a wall and probably wouldn't even have felt it, you know. But I mean, I guess their thought behind it is rather it be you be numb to it than burdened by it. But then all of that numbing, you become dependent upon it.
um,
But it's hard to, if I tell you I'm in pain, there's no way for you to know that I'm not in pain. And I know that if I tell you I'm in pain, you're going to give me pain medication. Unless I go in looking like a junkie, like there's no need for you to question or reason for you to question, you know? So it, it was really hard to let go of that stuff. Like I still take pain medication to this day, just not routinely.
I,
But yeah, it was all the abuse aspect of narcotics and alcohol was definitely mental uh, support, emotional support from what is it called? Coping. Horrible coping mechanism. Horrible. Yeah. But
yeah, that's why I go back to I wondered how the group supports would have been good in processing that as a group. Like it looked like you had really healthy supports in your case, and that's friends giving you tough love seem to be
yeah,
what get through that. And just looking forward, there's no one answer for everything, but what's like the general answer here that people need. And it's probably a lot more questions, and I don't know if we'll ever find that out.
well, if we knew everything, there'd be nothing to know. So
Right. Fair enough, right? Okay. I appreciate everything. We're getting close to the next timer. And then I just give the floor back to you again. Is there anything left unsaid?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much for sharing all that with us.
No problem, man. Anytime.